and girls, lesson 13, grade 8, accounting equation, exercise 46 on page 111. We've already done the CPJ and CRJ. So now it's the accounting equation. Please, boys and girls, some of these transactions just repeat, but it doesn't matter. It's very good exercise, all right? Then I just want to remind you, remember each transaction, doesn't matter what type of transaction, always has a debit and a credit. Accounting is a balance, so you need a debit and a credit, right? So if you look at your info that you need to know, sorry, I've just done the Afrikaans lesson, alright? Then you've got your bank account. Your bank account's got a debit side and a credit side. Remember, the bank is an asset. Your debit side is when you receive money. So money flows into your bank account. It's a CRJ because you're going to hand out a receipt to the person that pays money into your account, right? So your bank account is going to increase. Then your bank account is going to decrease when you make payments. We do in grade 8 payments by check, right? So your bank is going to be credited because money flows out of your bank account, CPJ. Then please remember, you've got more than that, those 5 assets, but your assets, land and building, vehicles, equipment, banking, cash flows, those 5 are the most common ones in grade 8, all right? Then your owner's equity on your debit side, your minus side is drawings and expenses. Drawings, the owner withdraw money out of the business bank account. So drawings decreases his owner's equity and capital increases the owner's equity. But then we've got expenses and income as well. Why did this owner start a business? To make a profit, right? So the profit is income minus expenditures. And income increases the profit, that's why it's on the credit side, and expenses decreases the profit, that's why it's on the debit side. Please, boys and girls, so if you remember that, then your accounting equation is quite easy. So when we look at the first transaction, I've done the dates there. There's 5 transactions on the 26th. I will just, after we've done the first 2, I'll just do the last 3 as well. Right, so if you read your first transaction, the owner increased her capital contribution with a direct deposit. So money was deposited into your bank account increases, so your bank account will be debited. Alright, and the owner gave what? Capital contribution. So capital will be credited. So let's just see. Remember, bank is an asset and capital is owner's equity. Alright, so remember, money went into your bank account because you've received money from the owner. Then they made a deposit into the bank account. So your bank account increased, that's why you've debited your bank. And bank is an asset. So your bank account is going to increase your assets with 50,000 Rand. Okay, and then your capital account's owner's equity. Capital always increases your owner's equity because they've actually had capital of an amount of 460,000 already. Now they've increased it with 50,000. So your owner's equity is going to increase with 50,000. Then your source document, it says there receipt 87. So remember, there's going to be an original receipt and a duplicate. You have to think what's going to stay in the business. You're going to give the original source document to the owner. So you will have the duplicate receipt. Alright, then there was another 2 transactions on the first. Issue a check, and with that check you paid equipment, you bought equipment, and you bought consumables. So if you make a payment, it's going to be with a check. But what's going to stay behind? Your check counterfoil. Right? With both transactions, you paid it with one check. Now let's go and see. If you made a payment with a check, your bank decreases. Money went out of your bank account. So your bank account is going to be credited. Both transactions. And remember, you know that bank is an asset. Right? So your asset is going to decrease because you made a payment. Sorry. And the amount for the one was 10,500, and for the other one it was 7,800. So now you've got a credit. So you need a debit transaction to balance your account again. Right? So now you have to go and see. The first transaction said that you bought equipment. So equipment is going to be debited. And what do you know? That equipment is an asset. And you've purchased equipment, so your asset's going to increase with 10,500 Rand. And you've bought consumables. And consumable is an expense. And what does an expense do? It decreases your owner's equity. So your expense, your owner's equity decreases. So your owner's equity decreases with 7,800. Consumables is an expense. So eventually, because you've purchased consumables and you're going to use it up, then you have to purchase consumables again when it's used up. So your profit's going to decrease every time that you have to buy new consumables, because that's an expense. An expense decreases your profit. On the 9th, it says, issue a receipt for 1,800 Rand. This is for rent. Okay, so somebody, we issued a receipt, so somebody paid us for rent. So what happened to your bank account? Your bank account, money came into your bank account, so your bank account increased. What did you do? You gave a receipt to Zing, alright? So you've actually had a cash receipt journal transaction. That means your bank increases, so your bank will be credited. Debited, sorry. And if your bank's debited with an amount, so remember, bank is an asset, and an asset's going to increase. Right, so now you've got a debit transaction of 1,800 Rand. Why did you receive money? From whom? From your tenant. Right, so you've received rent income, and your rent income account will be credited because an income is owner's equity, and an income increases your owner's equity because it increases your profit. Right, so here you're going to show that this is an income, and an income is owner's equity, and it increases your owner's equity. What did you give to Mr. Singh, your tenant? You gave a receipt. Again, the original receipt will go to Mr. Singh, and the business will keep the duplicate receipt. Okay, then the next transaction on the 9th. Service fees according to the cash register roll. So your source document is your cash register roll. You have received money from clients for service rendered. So what happened to your bank? Money flew into your bank. Okay? Flew. Okay, money went into your bank account. Your bank account is going to increase, so your bank account is going to be debited. And remember, bank is an asset. So what happened to your asset? Your bank is an asset. It increased. And the amount, 4,600 Rand. Alright? And then we've received money because we've rendered a service, and that is our current income. And remember, an income is part of your owner's equity. An income increases your profit. That's why it increases your owner's equity, and that's why it will be credited with an amount of 4,600 Rand. On the 16th, you've got 4 transactions. Cash received from clients for service rendered. Can you see it's exactly what we've done now? So I'm not going to pay too much attention. It's cash register roll. Your bank's an asset. Your bank's going to increase with an amount of 4,000. No. Sorry, boys and girls, this one is the 4,600. This one is 13,300. I just want to make sure on the 9th, yes, 13,300 Rand. Okay? So your bank's an asset. And your bank increased, why? Because you've rendered service to a client, so that's current income, and a current income increases your profit. So your owner's equity increases with 4,600 Rand. Then the 3 transactions on the 16th was issue a check, cash a check, 7,000 Rand for wages, 3,000 Rand for sundry expenses, and 400 Rand was, 7,000 was the value of the check, So the value of the check was 7,000 Rand. And then you made a payment, 3,000 Rand for wages and 400 Rand for sundry expenses. The rest is for consumables. So if you deduct that, that should give you 3,600 Rand. Right, so if you add that, 3,600 plus the 400 plus the 3,000, that's the value of the check. Right, so you made a payment. Going to be check counterfoil. Boys and girls, remember grade 8, to make it easy for you guys, we make all our payments with a check. You do all the payments by check. But now you have to remember your checkbook. It's got a check part and a check counterfoil. So you're going to tear off your check, hand over the check to the person that you pay in, that's your name of payee, and then the business will only have the check counterfoil to do the transaction or to read the, what happened on that transaction, to do the CRJ or CPJ, and then the rest. Alright, so your bank is an asset. And because you made a payment, money went out of your bank account, so your bank account decreased. That's why your bank's been credited. Right? So your bank is an asset. Okay? And what happened here? Your bank decreased. We'll get the amounts now again. I just want to see. Right. As far as I know, the first one was 3,000 Rand. What did you pay with that 3,000 Rand? Wages. Wages is an expense. And an expense decreases your owner's equity. So your owner's equity decreases, all right, with 3,000 Rand. Then you made a 400 Rand payment for sundry expenses. And that is an expense, as you can see. So owner's equity is going to decrease with 400 Rand. And then the last one, on the 16th, you pay consumables. Okay, consumables is an expense, and an expense decreases your owner's equity, and the amount was 3,600 Rand. And your bank decreases, it's an asset because you've taken money out of your bank account. Then on the 18th, it says, issue a check to the municipality. So you made a payment with a check. So you've got the check counterfoil. So what happened? Your bank is going to decrease, and your bank is an asset. So your asset's going to decrease. You'll see the amount now. What did you pay? You paid water and electricity. And water and electricity is an expense, and that means that your owner's equity is going to decrease, and the amount for the water and electricity that you've paid was 4,050. Okay, then the 21st, service fees received. So you've rendered a service and you've received money. So if you receive money, money flows into your bank account. Your bank account is going to increase, so your bank account is going to be debited. Bank is an asset. So what happens to your bank? Your bank increases with an amount of 6,000 Rand. How come did you receive money? For service rendered, that is current income. And current income is an income, and an income increases your owner's equity. What are you going to give to this client? You're going to work with your cash register, so you're going to have a cash register role as your source document. All right. Then on the 22nd, you've got two transactions: cash a check for stationery and for wages. So again, you've paid by check. So what stays behind in your checkbook? The check counterfoil. That means your bank's going to be credited, and the reason, because bank went out of your bank, or money went out of your bank account, your bank account's going, because it was a payment, your bank account's going to decrease, and that's why you credit your bank account. So remember, bank is an asset, but your bank account's going to decrease with an amount of 300 Rand and 3,000 Rand. So your bank account is going to decrease with 3,300 Rand. What did you buy with the 300 Rand? You bought stationery. And stationery is an expense, and it decreases your owner's equity. What did you pay with the 3,000 Rand. Wages. So wages, remember, it's an expense, so decreases your profit, so decreases your owner's equity. Okay, just remember I made a mistake there, it's 300 Rand. Right, then on the 26th, service received from client or service fees because you've rendered a service to them. So it's going to be cash register roll. Your bank's going to be debited. Why? Because bank's an asset. Money went into your bank account. Your bank account, you've received money. It's going to increase, and that's why you're going to debit your bank account. So here at your asset side, because bank is an asset, it's going to increase with 5,800 Rand. Then why did your bank account increase? Because you've received money from your clients, because you've rendered a service to them. That is current income, and an income increases your owner's equity. Okay, then the last transaction said bought stationery. No, that's your second last one, sorry. Bought stationery to the value of 400 Rand from April and Son and paid by check. So yeah, you've paid by check. So you've got a check counterfoil in your checkbook. Because you made a payment, your bank is going to decrease. Bank is an asset, so your bank's going to decrease with an amount of 400 Rand. Okay, remember, bank is an asset. Boys and girls, when you, in grade 8, when you buy an asset, then it will increase. So your debit will be plus and your credit will be minus. The only asset that's going to decrease in grade 8 is going to be your bank. Because we purchase land and building, we purchase vehicles, we purchase stationery. We take money out of our bank account and put it into our cash registers as cash float. That's the change for our clients. Alright, so the only asset at this stage that's going to increase and decrease is your bank. And that I've showed. Why? Because bank increases when you receive money and bank decreases when you pay out, make a payment. Alright, so your bank's going to decrease with 400 Rand. What did you buy with that 400 Rand? You bought stationery. And remember, stationery is an expense. And what does an expense do? It decreases your profit because you take money out of your bank account and you buy stationery. And this stationery, remember my ink, my refills? When it's empty, I'm going to buy new refills. And I'm going to throw this refill away. I can't sell it to anybody. That's why stationery decreases my profit. So my owner's equity is going to decrease with 400 Rand. Right. And then on the 26th, there's 3 more transactions. But sorry, this is now a new pen and I've opened it. I just want to... Alright, so let's quickly see. It says there, a check was issued and we bought consumables, we did advertising and we bought stationery. Alright, so on the 26th, we've got 3 more transactions. We've paid by check, so it's check counterfoil. Oh, I should have done that in blue, hey? Now what does that say? Check counterfoil means I've made a payment. So my bank's going to decrease. Why? Because money went out of my bank account, I made a payment, my bank decreased, so my bank's going to be credited. Bank is an asset. So what's going to happen? My asset's going to decrease with an amount of 800 Rand, 400 Rand, and 350 Rand. And if you add that, it gives you 1,550. Right? That's the amount that your bank decreased with. What did you buy? The 800 Rand was for consumables. And remember, consumables is a expense. So my expense is going to decrease my owner's equity. Okay, expense decreases my profit, and profit is part of my owner's equity. So an expense decreases my profit, and that's why it decreases my owner's equity. And then what did I buy for the 400 Rand? I did advertising. And advertising is an expense. So what happens? My owner's equity decreases with 400 Rand. And what did I buy with my 350? I bought stationery. And stationery is owner's equity. It's an expense, so it decreases my owner's equity. Right, boys and girls, please go and mark that, and then we'll tell you what's the next lesson as soon as, we just have to decide if we want to look at more of these or go to the next one. All right, but we will definitely, at the end of the year, look at accounting equation again. All right.